Here we are, day 5 of group stage. This shit was a wild one. We went into tiebreakers. We thought, Cloud9 and Team Vitality weren't going to make it through. We thought Royal Never Give Up was going to be first seed, and then Gen G was going to be second seed, but everything was kind of thrown out of whack. There was a lot of unexpected things. All our dreams were imagined yet blown up at the same time, and no one really knew what was really going
Um,
down.
no clue.
So here we have Jonathan Yee back again here, trying to break down some of these games. Uh, I don't know what do you think about the games in general.
Oh, I was so hyped at first, just from the Vitality vs RNG game. Just such insane, like it's just such an insane showing from Vitality this game specifically because what you because if we look at how Vitality played in the ULs, yes, they tend to be very they'll go crazy aggressive. They even when they're losing, they'll keep on they'll keep on trying. They'll keep on going for picks. They'll try to win the game. And this is I feel is something that they've been training over the split. This mental training sort of that, and I think it really paid off here because when Vitality went in against RNG, they initially wanted to target Uzi. I think they look at Kikis. He was parting bot side. He made an attempt, but then Jack got caught out. He considered a death, and then he died again a bit later. So at this point, a normal person would probably be thinking, okay, our plans fail. What do we do now? But then by then you just keep on playing. They switch their focus to the top side, and then they just start going from there. And Attila, in particular, he played a very solid game, and he just did really well on the Draven. He never really let Uzi get much of a say, and in the later team fights, uh, they just really took over, and mostly through their control around the Baron, spawn their vision control. During the team fights, Kabushan was just there on the side, just zoning Uzi way out of the fight. He literally couldn't do anything. And yeah, they just played solid from start to finish.
So this first game, all right, I'm gonna bring up the draft real quick here. So we see that Urgot is banned by RNG, but Aatrox is banned by Team Vitality. Now, normally we see both Aatrox and Urgot banned by Red Side, and then if that is not the case, then Blue Side just gets the remainder of the pick. So it was strange for me to see this in the beginning of the draft, and then also that Vitality they ban Zaya as well too, which shows that they don't want to play against the early aggression of Uzi. So I thought this draft was just kind of super strange because it seemed like no one was going to the convention of what was happening in the other days of the drafts.
Mm, well, I think they had a plan going into this, and they first of all, I don't think they were they're too overly concerned about the Kaiser. Unlike other teams, unlike the first time round, they just banned both Kaiser and Desire. But this time they probably thought, okay, Kaiser, she takes time to scale. We're just gonna give it to Uzi. He's not gonna have as much of an impact early game if we don't screw up too badly. And then you can see the Draven is really where Vitality's true colors show. They're they it's probably the lane that's even most aggressive. It's probably the most aggressive bot lane you can possibly put out, other than Lucian. But I think Lucian is not. I don't think they're as comfortable with the Lucian pick as they are on the Draven. So it might seem weird at first, especially the Aatrox blue side ban, but I don't know. Maybe they just didn't want to play against it because let me as we saw later, he really went popped off on the Aatrox. So I think it might have been something that they were wary of. from the beginning. They just didn't want the Aatrox on RNG side, and
Okay.
I think I don't know if they could have just nabbed it as a first pick, but it's arguable. It's really debatable. If they lost, I might have questioned that draft, but the Zion did well in the end, so they
Well,
it,
all right. Well,
so,
let me ask you this question then. So, what do you think about playing fast tempo against RNG this game? Because that's seemingly what Vitality wanted to do, right? They got the Draven, they got the Jingjiao, so it's like, okay, I want to play fast tempo against RNG, but yet Karsa got the Lee Sin as well too. So it's like, okay, they're both trying to play somewhat fast tempo, and then you have the Lissandra to try and lock up people. So how do you think this plan went against RNG themselves?
mm, think well, I did say they played solid, but they had few hiccups here and there, which is kind of expected. When you talk about Western teams, I think they just in general not as polished uh, in game as most of the Korean or Chinese teams. And this is just a tendency I've observed in general. They tend to play a bit faster, a bit looser, uh, and it does lead to more mistakes. But the sort of advantages this gives them is actually works out in their favor, I think, because there was this moment where you kind of expect Vitality to just back off after losing one of their members, but then they continue pushing with just three members, and then it just catches ING off guard, and they frantically scramble to try to defend it, but they don't really do it that well. So it's stuff like this that really trips up uh, most. I would say I don't want to call it Asian teams because it's a bit bad to lump them into one category, but in this case it was just they really got tripped up here, and I think it really shows that they should play more towards their own flavor of League of Legends instead of just looking at what everyone's playing and then try to copy that. So even though they didn't have a perfect game, it wasn't perfect execution by any means. They did what they needed, and RNG didn't have an answer in this game.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It seems like Vitality and Cloud9 both came into this entire tournament on their own terms, right? It was just like fuck the Korean meta, fuck the Chinese meta, like just pass all that up. Like we're gonna play OG, NA, and EU type meta. And Vitality, even still, they had their own idea on the meta in EU, and that was the same with Cloud9 as well too. They kind of warped the meta within North America
Mhm.
with their Nocturne and their Zillion pick, along with Kindred and Zillion pick as well too. So they completely changed the landscape within North America. And then you see in this second game here with Genji versus Cloud9, right? So
Mhm.
Cloud9, they end up winning this one. And you see the draft, and what I seem to notice within these current teams now is that they're willing to draft the Sivir. And from my understanding, it's like, okay, you get the Sivir, but Sivir is normally used to do massive wave clear, right? As for the mid game portion, and that you're able to just clear side lane waves and then come back to your team and have wave pressure advantage. So, but why is it being picked within this meta? We haven't seen it for the entirety of all of LCS or this entire season. So why would you bring out the Sivir now?
Mm, I think it's probably a response to what's good right now, in that you have teams mostly sticking to the Zarya and the Kaiser, but when those are taken out, you need another plan, and I think Silver just kind of uh, aligns well with what teams want to do, which is to play like a bit faster and be able to deal with waves quickly, which is something that arguably Tristana can do as well. But I think Siva has a better early game than Tristana does in most situations. I think it's not easy to see the rationale behind this because it's some of these trends they just kind of come up from solo queue and you have no idea why or how. It's just someone does it, everyone else does it. It's like the aftershock Lissandra thing.
Yeah,
Because as I started seeing after our last episode, I went to look up like solo queue like in Korea, and everyone was playing it.
weird.
It's just I think it's just something someone came up with and it just stuck. And we saw that Siva was first picked by Uzi, I believe, and we know that Uzi is just someone who can play pretty much any AD carry he wants, and Siva just happens to be a pick he picked up or just decided to play one day, and I don't know, maybe other teams were inspired by this.
Yeah, I mean, so I when I first saw the Sivir pick, it was with Uzi playing against it with against I believe it was a I want to say it was a Zaya. So it maybe was thought to be a counter pick to Zaya because in my thought process, it's okay. You get the push against Zaya of Zaya's early aggression, and so she can't just inherently bully you under pressure. But
She does get the wave lane priority to an
yeah,
extent.
then you challenge that lane priority with Sivir's wave clear, and it's not necessarily your harass pattern, but more so your wave clear priority.
Clear, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but what I find strange about this draft is that they allowed Rakan to get through on the second portion, and not only that, but both teams let Urgot go. Like where's Urgot?
Where's the god? That's a
like
good
what like
question.
like
That's a good question. I don't think Urgot is being priced as highly as as the rose is progressing because Urgot has been I think he has been figured out to an extent, and I think teams are just starting to prioritize the Aatrox way more right now. And so even if you pick the Urgot, if you have the Aatrox, I think you still end up being stronger in certain situations. But that's not to say that Urgot does not have his users, but I think C9 had a specific plan going into this. So uh, about the Rakan though, it's C9 did kind of force Genji into the Rakan pick for some reason. I don't know. I can't uh, think of the thought process behind this, but they did ban out the Tam Kench and the Alistar. So and then they pick up the Shen to flags, but it's so which kind of tells you that they don't care too much of the about the Rakan, even though he would normally be a pretty annoying pick to go up against, especially with the Zaya, but it seems they managed to work it out.
Okay, so we get into the game, and Crown gets fucking ass
Oh
blasted by
man,
Jensen.
okay, this was completely a mistake on the Genji coaching staff. There's no reason for him to be on Sinja. There's no reason for the last pick to be Skarner of all things.
Uh-huh.
It just doesn't help the draft they already had. They had I think when it's and what's more an option I could have seen for them is maybe flex the Aatrox mid. Yeah, you still have resulted in a losing lane, but I think we have survived way better than the Syndra did during that game because it's really pitiful. It's not suitable for broadcast.
So, okay. All right, let me ask you this then. Is this the last time that we see Crown? You
Oh
think
man,
you think this is the
I
last Worlds that Crown is going to be at least on the Gen G squad?
I think so because I do think so because looking at his interviews and his AMA, I think he was thinking about retiring last year, and he had pretty severe depression for a while, and I don't think this will have helped out at all. And I think even he has to know that he's on a timer when it comes to being able to play at a top level. And the Rose patch as well also really screwed him over, but in particular because right before Rose I was looking at the play-ins and I was looking at what people were picking. A lot of LeBlanc, Irelia, Akali, Aatrox, and even Aatrox, and then you look at what Crown can play. None of those. He doesn't play any of those except Irelia, and if the this is stuff like this. His champion pool has been an issue for at least 2 to 3 years now since 2016. So so if I'll be very surprised if he's still on Gen G next year, considering what happened in
I mean,
2018.
I think one can draw a comparison with Crown and Pawn, right? At first, Pawn came out into the scene and he came out into his own and he actually looked like a pretty good mid laner, but then slowly as time progressed it seems like all these other mid laners are passing him, and that's the same story with Crown as well too. He was at the top of his game like you said in 2016 and then he was just completely usurped. So is it just that everyone else is getting better, or is it just that he's getting worse? Like in terms of even champion pool, is he just slowly degressing or regressing from everyone else in the
He's,
competition?
he's definitely a slave to the meta in this sense, in that he has a set of champions he's really good at, and that doesn't change regardless of meta. So stuff like this makes it really disadvantageous for Gen G whenever the patch changes rapidly, like it did this year. It changed so much that I think Crown only really got his footing towards the end during the gauntlet. And I don't think he can afford another year of just waiting for a patch to get good for him. And I think at this point he's definitely not enjoying League of Legends as a game. He's just playing it because he want to be a pro, and is I think he's about just about reached his limit because he's played over 2,000 games of solo queue this season.
Mm-hmm.
I checked. I checked yesterday, and
It's bad.
it's mad, and he's still at this level. So he's grinded out these many games. He's tried everything he can. He's picked up new champions, but he's still unable to perform at the top level. So definitely is a case of a bit of both. Both other mid laners are coming up, surpassing him. We've seen a few already this year, and a matter of him just not being able to adapt quickly enough.
Yeah, I mean, well, maybe he could come over, retire in NA, still
Or
have
like
a
Fly did, and then he comes back to Korea.
exactly. Play for a bottom tier team, maybe like come
Oh no.
back, have a resurgence, maybe not.
I
I don't
heard the
know.
Golden Guardians are looking for mid laner after Mickey left.
Well, Golden Guardians have a lot more problems than just the fucking mid lane. Let's
Oh yes, and Crown wouldn't stop any of them whatsoever.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about the Nocturne pick in this because Nocturne he limits vision, and that's a lot more underrated utility than a lot of people would think, especially when you're thinking in the mind of solo queue, perhaps. And this kind of allowed Hecarim to flank a lot of the times. So, do you think this will work later on within, the quarterfinals or even further on into the group stage as other teams are able to play in this meta?
To me, Hecarim is very much a cheese pick, where it's like something you put out once and either the enemy responds to it or they don't or they are unable to and then they ban it out the next game. This Hecarim is just that sort of pick. Most people are just either unwilling to deal with it, so they ban it, or they just let it go through and you try and find a solution there. But Hecarim is not exactly a pick that C9 relies on, so it's just something that they use to take games off and catch people by surprise. And I think this something like this, if they go into the quarterfinal stage, I don't expect them to see too many teams allow it through, just because of how the difficulty. It mainly comes from the fact that it's just so uncommon, and if you have to pair it up with the Nocturne as well to have his desired effect, I think.
So then do you think teams end up banning the Hecarim at all? Just because either they're
I
scared of it or
Yeah, so we saw ING end up just banning it because that's the sort of thing teams do when you come up with pocket picks during this types of scenarios. You see it once, it does pretty well, but you don't have the time to think of a solution, so you ban it out. But perhaps by the time of the quarterfinals and we know who C9 are facing, their opponent might have something in mind. I don't know, but we all know that bracket stage is when the all the weird counter picks come along. So and there will be time for teams to theorycraft as well. So C9 might see some play on it, but it is debatable whether they'll still find as much success on it because teams might have found a solution by then.
okay. Well, let's go towards the game of Vitality versus Genji. Now, this time they're able to put my boy Crown on Malzahar duty, right? It's like, okay, well, he got fucked earlier. Let's go ahead and put him on Malzahar. He did pretty good at that on Worlds. You can shut down someone like Faker. You should be able to shut down Jizuke, right? So, okay, so you put him on Malzahar duty, but it doesn't work. why
No,
why doesn't this work? I mean, is it because Jizuke ended up getting first item QSS? Because that isn't normally a thing, is it?
no, not at all. It's definitely a Mauser counter item. Something is he went to the arguably went to the extreme a bit because this it's not something you rush. But if you're up against a Skada or a Mauser, you're naturally gonna get a QSS. Normally, this will work out in Genji's favor, but the fact is that Crown is requires so much protection from ambition and core JJ to just to function in lane because he's getting pressured so hard. If, even on the Mauser hard, it's like if Mauser is generally the one you with the wave priority, uh, all you have to do is chunk your potions, you spam your minions, you spam spells on the minions, and then you get the wave priority, right? But they didn't get much of that, and it fell to ambition to really puff around the mid lane just to keep Crown safe. And Kikis did the same thing as well. He didn't go top and bot much. He just hung around the mid area, the rivers, and because of that, Vitality just got the priority on the other lanes, and we saw Kabisha just go ape shit on the Aatrox, and then this is really not and Cuvier's fault, but the fact is that there was just no lane pressure from no jungle pressure. Sorry, no jungle pressure from the ambition because mid is just such a hot spot for both Vitality and Genji. They both wanted control, and then they just started fighting over it all the time. And Vitality, I think, just kind of won out just because of the way they were using the side. They won out on the side lanes, and you see that they drafted Tristana as well, which is really good at pushing waves, and they just use that to their advantage. They acted like there was almost acted there was no jungler because ambition he doesn't have too many options, so so he ended up going the way of Vitality real fast. And added to that, I think at this point Genji were just really in panic mode. They're attempting to go back to the comfort picks, to bring back ambition to stabilize the team. Haru didn't. Haru, I don't think Haru played any worse than ambition did, but the fact is that in Korea, most junglers are used in this manner. They just swap in and out in order to reset the team's mentality, and it did work out this time. So, and it's mainly I don't know. I wouldn't blame Crown for this because he did what he could. Mm, but Vitality just had a better plan.
So I feel like when it comes to Cabo Shard, he is this. overlooked top laner. Like I've always thought of Cabochard as one of the best top laners within Europe. You know, after Soaz and Otawamne and I guess
Wonder.
Wipo now too, and Wonder, right? So there are four other top laners that are probably better than him. I'm not going to fully say that Wipo is better yet, just because of his smaller legacy, but Cabochard is this overlooked top laner. So it feels like whenever teams go into Team Vitality, they just overlook this guy. And this game, he was incredibly overlooked, right? You had Cuve just get overtaken in the top lane, and then suddenly Cabo gets priority top lane and just ends up stomping. So is this something to where, I don't know, Korean teams just end up overlooking the top lane against Western teams because they think Korean teams are just better in terms of top lane priority?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Well, okay. So, do you think that regardless of picks, because it seems like with picks, the Korean teams don't even care what you get. They'll go Aurelia into Urgot. They'll go Aatrox into Urgot. They don't really care what you pick top lane. It's the fact that these Korean top laners will pick whatever that they want into that. So do you think it's a little bit of a disrespect when it comes to the top lane matchup against Western teams?
I think in this sense, it was more of something that they wanted to flex, perhaps, or in the case of Irelia, but they changed their mind for whatever reason, and I don't think I think I did because if I'm not wrong, I'm pretty sure Crown could have just taken the Irelia, but I think they changed their mind at the last moment, and not I wouldn't be so sure about the disrespect per se because uh I don't know, QA just seems like this guy who's just like the model role player. He's not flashy, but he definitely does his job every game. He knows what he has to do as a top laner. But I don't know if this was disrespect or just plain negligence from Genji in this scenario.
Okay. All right. So we see that Vitality win this game pretty much through top lane. And then we go on to the next game here, which is Cloud9 versus Royal Never Give Up. Now, this game, everyone was pretty surprised, but if you still look at the draft, you see that Svenskeren gets his Talia pick. And it seemed like
Is a
everyone,
denier as well.
yeah, it's a denial, but it's also that everyone seems to forget that Svenskeren is good on this pick or something. Like I don't get why they're giving him this pick constantly.
Yeah, so I think I've elaborated on this before. They generally don't tend to ban meta champions. They don't do that much. They tend to focus more on what uh, the opponents are good at. In this case, I don't. They might not have seen Sylvanus Karen as his Talia as much of a threat as say the Nocturne, which probably they saw as being more integral to how C9 likes to play, which is go dive into a backline with uh, the Shen or with the Hecarim. I think they felt denying the Nocturne pick was a better idea in this case because of what they saw earlier, and sometimes it's just the case that you can't ban out everything, so you have to let some picks go, and you just have to work with that. And after all, League of Legends is a game where you only have 5 bans, so um, you don't I wouldn't call it disrespect as well in this scenario. It's just they were more focused on something else that they just seen, and they kind of overlooked that Sivan could play Talia that well.
So did RNG have enough damage in this comp? Because the analyst desk criticize them on not having enough damage and kind of going all in on the Uzi basket. But when you think of anyone to put your eggs in a basket, it's fucking Uzi, right? So,
Mhm.
is this a problem for RNG's comp as it stands? Because
Mm,
they flexed the well, they didn't really flex it at all. They just picked
they just
Scion
picked the Sion.
last, yeah,
Yeah, I guess
and then they put it mid lane. So
they. I think this was good drafting on C9's part. Uh, they saw that Xiaohu had played few. They banned out specifically Lissandra and the Galio, both of which has Xiaohu had already played these roles, and this left him with very few options besides. No, I don't. I wouldn't even say he had very few options at this point because RNG is not a team that will just go they'll suddenly go off mana for no reason. At this point, they were still relatively confident with what they had, which was to build around the Kaiser. So I think it's definitely more of a win on C9's part uh, in the drafting that end up uh, putting RNG in a scenario where they couldn't uh, get enough damage. And also, the Sion pick doesn't seem to be something that Xiao is really familiar with. Because I was looking at him during the team fights, and he was running away and trying to not take damage. I was really confused because that is not how you play Sion. There's just you sit there, you think that you soak the damage, you zone the AD carry, you make life difficult for the other team. You don't leave your AD carry to get taunted by by the enemy top laner. It's just I was just shaking my head when I saw Licorice managed to get that double taunt because that was definitely Xiaohu's fault.
okay, so in the in game problems, what do you think made it to where Cloud9 was able to win this over RNG? Because it seemed like Cloud9's advantage during this entire game was their global advantage, right? With both Sven and the Shen able to collapse, right? So it seemed as though RNG didn't respect the globals in the entire game, but maybe there was like some micro aggressions which RNG just misplayed.
Mm, I think C9 just took they saw that they weren't doing super well, and then went for the they just went what with something similar to what Vitality did. They just started playing around the top side, and they started setting up vision around the Baron to pressure RNG into a fight, which is almost exactly what Vitality did. And well, I wouldn't say that there was any particular problem with how ING played the game. It's just that they've kind of limited in a sense by what their draft had, by their draft, and the fact is that they had pretty much no avenues to do much damage beyond the front line, and yeah, so if they lose that draft in the drafting stage, it becomes really pretty difficult to come back, and think I think this was mostly seen just playing out their comp better.
Well, if there's anything that I learned from anime, is that Fruits Basket is a terrible fucking choice, and you should never trust baskets when it comes to both anime or League of Legends.
I
but
don't know, debatable. It's pretty debatable.
but anyways, okay, so Cloud9 versus Team Vitality. Now, everything's on the line for this shit. I mean, you got NA versus EU. You got the greater than sign flipping both ways. People just don't know what the hell is going to go on. And then you get the Singe pick as the last pick. Like you get a culmination of all the signature picks in which you can even possibly think of within this entire game. I mean, you have the fucking Nocturne, you have
The Zillion
the Zillion, the
and
Singe,
the
the
Shen.
Echo,
They have,
the
that was
the
everything. The Draven, they
yeah,
have everything.
everyone got everything. So like,
It just became a slugfest, and which is what NA and EU tends to be, right? It's just a plain good old slobber knocker, feast flying tables, thrown. Like they just threw everything that they had at each other, and I don't think they really cared about macro at all this game. Like you look at the past four games, it's like, yeah, okay, we're just gonna out macro you. We're just gonna have better vision control. We're just gonna bait you in the Baron. But then this game is just okay. Let's just start fighting. Everyone just starts fighting from the get go. It never stops. It just didn't end, and it was
so
fun. It was free.
okay, so how much power do you think this Singe pick has? Because we saw it previously when Impact was on Cloud9, and then we see it when Licorice is now on Cloud9. So how much power does this Singe pick actually have when it comes to like a team composition like this?
Mm, okay, so I thought it worked really well into what the Vitality had already picked. Mostly Draven is an immobile carry, so he's sometimes is someone you can potentially just run at in the late game and shut him down if you're not too uh, down in levels and kills. So and add to that the fact that they also picked some other champions that which were pretty much immobile and unable to run away from the Singe easily. They don't have escapes. It made the Singe pick a pretty genius move in that respect because I don't think Vitality saw it coming at all. Because it's such a perfect. I felt it was such a perfect pick against them, considering how the game played out. They just didn't have many answers to it, and their comp didn't have any answers to the Singe as well. The best you could do was to just throw everything you had at him, and rule number one of playing against Singe is that you don't throw everything you have against him. So yeah, I felt it was pretty genius.
So are Cloud9 the best team at split pushing in NA? Is that what we're working with here?
In any, oh, I don't know. Any, if you're just talking within any, probably. What is there to well, okay, like I can't think of another team compared to them in terms of
Okay,
split push.
so I guess that's not really saying much anyway.
Yeah, that's not saying too much. If you just look at any,
So you think the Singe pick was probably the biggest problem within this entire game was that he was able to just constantly push sideways and then force a fight from Vitality, and Vitality had to fight on Cloud9's terms.
yeah, I would say so. Yeah, because not only does Sinch have the ability to do whatever he wants against that comp, he Vitality the fact that Vitality and no easy solutions to what the C9 had made it pretty, I would say, pretty easy for them to just dictate the game and work around there. But it was still pretty messy and bloody for some reason. I think it could have gone a lot cleaner, but it's just, I guess it's just how NA and EU games go. They just tend to devolve into such fiestas.
Hey,
Could have been cleaner, I'd say.
we live and we breathe the clown fiesta, so it's I think it's just in our blood at this point. So you can't really get it out. Okay, well, all right. So let's go into RNG versus Gen G. So this is when MLXG gets subbed in, and he gets his signature Olaf pick. And what I'm wondering is, what function does MLXG have that Karsid doesn't? Because everyone says that it's like this aggression, you could say. But other than that, no one really talks about maybe the different nuances of like what lane he likes to play around, or what game plan RNG usually have when MLXG is in the game. So, like, what does MLXG provide to RNG?
Okay, so to start with what MLG has, we have to talk about Casa first. And how what Casa when Casa joined the team, he he joined the team along with Casper, who was the coach of IME for quite a while, and he even took them to Worlds. And IME is a team that was not supposed to be at Worlds at all. They were not a good team, individual wise. And what Casper did with IME was to turn them into a team that would be able to go 50-50 against any team in the LPL. And this stuff like this, and uh, having heart on the coaching stuff. He at first he was the understudy of Firefox, who has since left RNG, and when Hart took over as the coach, strategic coach, he the RNG's play have stepped up insanely, and the I think Casa had a lot to do with this because Casa, when before he came to RNG, he was someone who was pretty much just, I wouldn't say brainless, but he was definitely more on the aggressive side. He liked his Lee Sin and Elise. He liked the early gangs. He liked high tempo play. He would always try to go for lane gangs. But towards the end of the Fresh Wolves, towards the end of his time on Flash Wolves, that approach started to not work anymore. They didn't start working as well as consistently as it used to, and there always be a point where you fall off. And they normally had the Flash Wolves at that time. They normally didn't have many plans for when that will happen. They just kind of relied on the fact that Casa was a really good mechanically skilled jungler who liked Lee Sin and Elise. So when he joined RNG along, and started sharing the spot with MLXG, there were a few concerns over how RNG would use the two of them, and it turns out that RNG managed to mold Casa into pretty much what you might call an LCK jungler, who likes, as you may or may not know, LCK junglers, they overwhelmingly tend to prefer control junglers. They like the Sejuani, they like Zach, they like these picks first and foremost. Uh, they like controlling the map. They with mostly with vision. They do they pretty much play for the team. And Casa this year is pretty different from how he used to be uh, when he was on the Flash Wolves. He started playing the Gragas. He's just in general he's just not on when even when he's on the Lee Sin, he can still pop off because that's still his favorite champion. But on the whole, he's become someone who plays for the team and is less of a solo. I will smash everyone. So 1v5.
See,
So
what I think about Karsa is I
yeah,
think he is this jungler that is what Blank could never be. Because in the beginning, if you remember, Blank was this carry jungler that SKT tried to turn into this control style when Peanut came along. And then it just ended up fucking not working. They had two
no,
carry type junglers, and both of them were kind of shit at the other style of control. And so they ended
neither
up
of them
just,
could play like
yeah,
what Kuma wanted.
yeah, it was just completely botched. So Karsa seems to be like this ultimate jungler, like just something that LCK could never accomplish or that Coma could never accomplish. So is that what Karsa is? Karsa is the kind of beta version of the alpha version of Blank. Is
I
that a good
think
comparison?
I think another thing that sets Castle apart is that he's extremely communicative in game. He talks a lot to the extent that he almost dominates the team communications when he's playing, and he gives a lot of information to the laners. He tells he tells everyone where the jungle is, where what's happening. He's all besides the fact that he's also there's mechanically skilled jungler, he's also doing this. So I think the fact that he's a very communicative jungler has helped a lot in his transition towards being a more control style jungler, I feel.
Okay, so let's talk about this actual game. But before we
I've
do
not talked about
that,
MLXG yet though.
well, before we get into the game though, wait, you had said you wanted to talk about MLXG because we got
Yeah,
into Karsa, so
yeah,
let's talk about MLXG. So
yeah.
to reiterate the question, what does he provide that RNG doesn't get with Karsa? Because now Karsa, as you said before, he's turned into more of this control style Korean type jungler, and you have this fucking rabid beast that is MLXG.
He's pretty much the rabbit dog that you unleash on the other team and just let him do his thing. Because that's pretty much what he is. He's just someone who likes to do whatever he wants, and he does not care if his team follows up. Because okay, so MLG when he used to play Mata, I think Mata he got I don't know he's probably not a type of player that Mata likes very much because he's just like a really small dog with like a puppy who's just really hyperactive and restless. He just wants to kill things, do things, gang, and I think this is definitely what he brings to the table is the fact that he's willing to just go in without hesitation, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, which is why sometimes he gets the name of MLXD, which when he makes a particularly dumb play, which but that it's he's a very conflict type jungler where if if he manages to do accomplish what he wants early game, the game is pretty much over. But the fact that he's such a conflict jungler is probably why he's not starting more.
I mean,
But
I gotta say, as a side point, is that when you develop, your username or whatever, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be like Black Hawk or something, right? And then the movie Black Hawk Down comes down, and all you see are these fucking memes of Black Hawk Down whenever you do a
Black Hawk
bad
Down. Every time
play.
he dies, it's like Black Hawk Down.
Black Hawk Down, right? So it's kind of like with MLXG and how he got this meme of MLXD. It's like you don't really know what's gonna come out as a meme after the name that you create. I'm pretty sure when he created that
Like,
name, he was just like, oh yeah, this sounds kind of good, like
it's like
I'm
yeah,
just
I like my hot pot. So
yeah,
the
right,
game's
like
literally named after hot pot. So
like yeah, this sounds pretty dope. No one's gonna take this out of context. It's like nah,
yeah,
dude.
no, definitely not.
4chan internet knows no bounds. You're gonna get fucked one day eventually.
You get memed no matter who you are.
But okay, anyways, so let me ask you this: do you think MLXG would function in RNG if Uzi had his old tendencies of go wild in the bot lane and no matter what try and win bot lane no matter what? Do you think he would
Mm,
function within that type of an environment? Because as you said, it's like MLXG is this small rabid dog that just attacks constantly. And if you think of Uzi back in the day, it's like, well, that's what Uzi was, right? He's a fucking mad dog, right? He can barely be brought in by the leash from his support. And it was certainly not the case back in the day. So do you think that I guess Uzi has reined in his tendencies in order to make room for someone like MLXG?
mm, well, not exactly, because Uzi is still. I think he still remains the same player. He just that at his heart, he's someone who definitely wants to storm the early laning phase, no matter what champion is on, no matter who is against. He doesn't. I don't think he even cares who he's against. He just wants to win. And this is. I don't think that changes with. Casa or MLXG, the probably the biggest difference I would say between the two junglers is that with MLXG, his plays are a bit more sporadic and less planned out. While with Casa, there's a lot of pre-planning when it comes to when they want to dive or when they want to. So they're a lot cleaner with Casa, and so if I guess at the end, towards the end, Uzi was getting kind of frustrated that he wasn't doing much as Kaiser, and he just started saying, "Okay, give me Kalista. I'm just gonna stomp shit all over the enemy AD carry." And yeah, and he did that with MLXG in the game. So I don't think it's something that he has any concern over, like who his jungler is, as long as he gets to stomp his lane. But there is definitely a reason why Uzi did not win any titles before 2018, and probably the presence of MRXG's aggressive tendencies plus his own aggressive tendencies tended to be a bit too off balance for them, and they'll get behind and fail to win when it mattered. I don't
Okay,
know if that will happen again this Worlds, but they seem a bit. It really depends.
so looking at this draft, it seemed like a lot of analysts were criticizing the Nami pick at the very end. And going into the Thresh pick, it's like, okay, well, once you're hooked by Thresh, you're fucking dead.
Mhm.
Especially against this Callista pick as well, too. So, do you think Gen G can kind of be criticized for at least their last pick?
Um, I don't know. The thing is, they have this level one plan, right? Where they went to the bot lane brush and is camped there with QV. And for some reason, 9G just started running over there with their bot lane and MIG behind them, and uh, somehow they either knew that Genji was there or they just guessed based on the fact that Haru was on the topside jungle, and it's hard to say whether Nami would have been a good pick had that play not gone wrong for them, because MLG got the first blood in that situation, and that really screwed them up from then on. They couldn't. Uh, they had limited options from then on. The bot lane was down from the beginning, and other lanes weren't doing too hot either. So oof, it would be difficult to criticize it on based on that whatever one player alone.
Well, I mean, I guess that just proves that maybe European teams shouldn't scrim against LPL teams.
I actually don't know if there's any truth to what Hug said. Like I don't know. It's hard. It's guessable. I think it's something like this is a guessable scenario to in my
look,
mind.
look, I'm not I'm not gonna go down the rabbit hole of speculation, but
Uh-huh.
just planting the seed in people's minds. maybe
I don't know.
maybe
I'd
there's
rather not have
truth.
that.
You
I'd rather
decide
not
if
have
you want to
that.
water it or not. But okay, so RNG win this game through MLXG's early aggression. His early first blood helps a lot. And then Zhao Hu's just presence of mind going for bot and TP plays bot side. So, how do you think Zhao Hu's form is looking within this current tournament? Because to me, in this game, he looked fantastic.
He had a lot of good flanks. He works. He's pretty much he changed a lot of the engages on the bot lane, and that is something that you really prize as a mid laner, because like normally you look at solo queues like, oh my mid laner didn't come down to roam or whatever, but he came in time every single time, and he just turned around almost every single fight that Genji had, and he's having a pretty good tournament, but he's definitely not the focal point of RNG. He's definitely doing his job as a mid laner. He's not aiming to stop his lane. In fact, I don't think he's done that this tournament. They've not drafted a winning lane matchup for him just to stomp, and he's definitely been a lot stepping up his team play in that sense. And if we go by that, I think he's doing a really good job.
So you say that Xiao Hu isn't the focal point of RNG, at least within this game, but then
Mhm.
you have Let Me in the top side. This guy was up 60 CS at 15 minutes
Yeah,
due
just
to
shitting
like,
on QV.
yeah, just shitting on Cuvee because of like his reactions in the top side and whatever. So is Cuvee like this secret carry on RNG that just everyone forgets about?
Let me. You mean let me?
Or yeah, Let Me, yeah.
Uh, yeah. Well, it's not often that he gets to pop off like this because generally, let me is this guy who he has the ability to play carry champions, but never gets the opportunity to because of how RNG like to play, and basically he's put on tank duty a lot of the time. So he's easy to forget that he's also a player that can do pretty well when given the resources. And in particular, this Aatrox speed is looking really overpowered. I have to say, it's definitely not something you want to get you want to allow the opponent to get their hands on. So let me uh he's at shades of carry potential, but because of how the team functions, he's not been able to show that. So I wouldn't request that teams just look out for that because it's quite uncommon for him to be put on a carry champion in the first place. I think this in this instance he got the Aatrox. It was a good opportunity for him. MLG was already dominating the map. There was nothing that Padilla could do to him. So he just ran rampant.
Yeah, I mean, I think it seemed like Genji just wasn't paying attention to the top side of the map, but that allowed RNG to kind of get some couple extra towers and couple extra objectives on the map as they were worried about Uzi in the bot lane. Seems like a fucking double-edged sword to me. But okay, let's move on to the next game of RNG versus Cloud9. Now you have MLXG still staying in there, and this game it was absolutely insanity. All right,
It was great.
this is the tiebreaker for those that don't know that weren't able to stay up late enough. But we had a fucking brawl. Like this game was nuts. Both teams they seem to have like massive focus bot lane with both teams being super aggressive too. And it seemed like no team could kill each other. So what was really going on in this game? Because it just seemed like a whole bunch of things flashing on the screen, and I had really no clue what was going on because they were constantly fighting.
Yeah. So if you look at how both teams drafted, they didn't. It seemed like RNG were aiming for a 1-3-1 composition. They wanted to get ahead and then just pressure all three lanes with the Aatrox and the Lucian. And add to that, Xiao is also on the Syndra, which had good wave clear, good kill potential. But C9 opted into this I pretty crazy composition. I can't really describe it well. It's not something I see often. The poppy top is something that has not been seen for some time. You have you have the synergy between Xin Zhao and Zillion, which pretty potent early game combo. But so both teams didn't seem to want to 1-3-1, especially Cloud9. And Cloud9 were pretty much forcing RNG into these situations where they had to 5v5 team fight partly because of that Nocturne, which uh, didn't seem too well placed. It's more of a denial pick.
Yeah.
and so it didn't really fit the rest of what RNG wanted to do, but they worked around that. It could have gone way worse for RNG, to be honest, because at certain points it seemed like Cloud9 was in the lead. They were doing they were even giving up Baron and stuff, and add to this, MLG is just plain unable to dive the back line because Sneaky always had his ultimate up. The RNG didn't have other options to dive the back line, so they didn't have any follow up. So it always came down to a situation of when Sneaky uses his ultimate or is forced to, and that came only really late in the game when MLG finally got his chance to flank with his ultimate, and uh, he also took a lot of uh, defending from Xiao to keep the game in RNG's court. But for a long period of time, it seemed like C9 had the edge, and basically C9 just had this really good sustained composition that made it difficult for RNG to get any kills because Jensen would just revive them immediately if they were ever picked, and then they could keep fighting. But the downside to what their composition was definitely the Xi Chao. They because after a certain point he just had no he lacked the either the tankiness or the sustain to stay in team fights, and they were going for pretty long team fights with the Poppy. So that was something that started working against them as the game went on. So this is something that C9 probably weren't too willing to go that late into the game, but they end up doing so, and they end up having several fights around the Baron. It could have gone either way really, depending on how both teams played. But RNG came out on top in the end.
Yeah, I mean it seems like these teams are underrating what Rakan can do for a team fight, or even what Ming's Rakan can do for a team fight. Because
What Ming can do in general, he's insane. He's an insane player, to be honest.
yeah, that's what it seems like. So I mean, everyone's saying Uzi's like this insane player, which to be fair, he played quite well within the entire team fight of whatever happened, during that game. But Ming also with the crazy engages. I know Rakan is one of those support champions that looks crazy whenever you do anything, anyways. But it's just this
No, he
guy
played
on.
exceptionally well. He just played exceptionally well, both offensively and defensively.
So, do you think this is kind of a ban-worthy champion when it comes to facing against RNG?
Ooh, the thing about RNG is that they have multiple not flex, multiple support picks that they could pick up for Ming. So if they really want to target Ming, you have to target his Tam Kench, his Alistar, his Rakan, and who knows what else he has at his disposal. So it's almost not worth it to do it like this. Like to target ban is I I can't call it a solution if you want to deal with RNG. You just have to play on you just have to play on their terms and beat them at their own game.
Well,
I think.
any team going against RNG fucked. So that's basically end
I don't know.
story.
We saw them lose two games,
Yeah, yeah, true, true. Okay,
so
you're
they can bleed.
you're kind of fucked. Like you're what? They're 5-2, I guess, at the end. So you're
5-2. Those two games they should give any team hope. I think.
okay. So where does C9 stand in terms of power level after this Group A run? Where does Cloud9 stand? Because it seemed like it was anyone's game during the start of this day, and then Cloud9 just comes out. They play their game. They play their own style, and they end up actually winning and taking off games. So, where does Cloud9 stand as they come into the next stage?
Mm, I think they've had a lot of time to adapt and find solutions to the current meta, and the fact that they have two very distinct junglers helps in this respect because if in case they do find run into a problem with Svenskeren, which hasn't happened yet, well, sort of, but they do have the option of swapping out Sven for Blabber. Add to this the fact that they're probably infinitely better at best of five scenarios than any other team they face today except RNG. So if I would not count them out against any team, which is quite surprising to hear from about an NA team, but I think they have the ability to take the game to anyone they face. They will definitely go the distance. I
Well,
think
I mean,
they're just not going to fall over, to my mind.
I guess all those Fortnite games helped. I don't know, but like,
Well, yeah, just play more WoW, play more Fortnite. I'm
yeah,
sure it helped ANX in 2016. I'm sure
that's true.
it
Everyone
helped them.
forgot about that, right? That was a
Yeah,
team that got pretty far. So I guess the
yeah,
moral of the story is just
play other games.
yeah, play other
Don't burn
games,
yourself out. Like, don't
take
burn
stress
yourself out.
off, play your own
Yeah,
game. Quite
do
literally.
do what you need. Play your own game. Play some Age of Mythology. I don't know.
Okay, so how does uh, how does RNG look? Does I mean RNG seems mortal now, right?
Mhm. Uh, Model, yeah, they're still pretty strong. Still one of the contenders for roles, I think. They do look vulnerable on what they have been running up to now, but and I think the fact that they had to swap out Casa entirely proof that they would be getting pretty worried about not even making out the group stage as first. So they definitely came out of this with some things that they have to work on, like their drafts and the fact that what they were using previously have been kind of one dimensional and have been figured out by teams. So for them, they have to work. They have to go back to the drawing board a bit. But other teams may now see this as a chance to take them on. But Duke, as we have seen, even if you take them to a 5v5 team fight, they still have individually some of the best players in the world. So I think what teams should do against them is to just reduce the influence that certain players on the team have in general, like me or Xiaohu, because these are the ones who directly contribute to RNG success. Even if like you get like put it this way, if even though Uzi is a focal point, he still needs players around him to do their jobs, and if the players around him cannot do their jobs, he's fucked. So and bot lane at this point is really team centric. It's not a 1v5 role, and he definitely did not play any 1v5 games at all these roles. So shut down the solo laners, maybe, and teams might find it a bit easier against them.
Okay, so although contrary to what is normal of French teams and how they're thought to surrender,
They fought to the
but
end.
yeah, they fought till the end. They didn't wave the white flag. They fought to that. No, jokes aside, Vitality actually did quite well this tournament, coming up with a squad full of rookies and actually playing their own game and playing their own style. What do you think of the team Vitality as they bow out from the group stage?
I think they're an inspiration. They straight up like they prove that you can do what you want and play to your own strengths to win. And even if they do not come out of the group stage, I think they've already shown every other team that pros that they do not have to be afraid of their opponents, because everyone before World is like, oh shit, Vitality are fucked. They're so fucked because they have Royal Never Give Up, MSI winners, Genji, Road winners, and you have little team Vitality who came fourth place in the LCS. So things weren't looking optimistic for them, but they had, like, it goes back to the mental training to me, and just how ready they are to face obstacles, and how ready they are to press on even if things do not appear to be going their way. And that is something I think a lot of teams, especially NA teams, can take a page from. Their unwillingness to go down without a fight is something that has to be commended. And even if you look at Gen G, for instance, they just kind of wilted. They, they, they could not. They had a style, and they have been sticking to it for so long that they do not know any other way to play the game. And when it came down to it, they had no answers left. They just wilted. They died. That's the last thing you want to do as a team. Really, you want to go down. You want to go down look proud, and that's what Vitality did.
So I must say that if anyone caught the ending of the broadcast where Yamato Cannon ended up making his speech with Shocks and saying that EU teams, they need to play their own game, they need to play their own style, and don't be afraid. I mean, that was some war hero
Some
shit.
inspiration,
that was that was like, you know, Troy going into battle
into
or
war.
something,
Yeah,
or
it's
like
like
that was some
charge.
that was some Spartacus level type speech right there. So if
He could be a
EU,
war leader,
yeah,
and he is in a sense. He was bringing his army out to war. He did battle. He fought his war. He might not have won the battle, but I think he won everyone's hearts.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, okay, so all right, I have to ask this question because they did so well within, you know, their entire context, which is, do you think the narrative that rookies lack experience and so therefore they can't do well when it comes to an international stage, do you think that's now an overrated narrative?
Definitely, for sure, 100%. Look at the amount of rookies that are in Chinese teams. There are so many, and none of them ever said, "Oh, I need to learn. I need to practice." They've come to Rose prepared to play, and I think it really sh- displays the sort of difference in mentality and just the amount of games they get to play as rookies. Because rookies in the LPL and LCK, they get to play a lot of games, and they start they have a not only do they have a lot of veterans around them most of the time, they also get a lot of precise coaching, which helps them out a lot. So even though they are very young, they don't really feel any pressure to just play how they want to. And at this point, you can't really use the rookie excuse anymore, because rookies can come to the world stage and play really well too. Uh, we see so many players who are rookies win titles. So there's no reason why it's only any rookies who seem to have this weird mentality, nerve issues, and just generally, I think they're just not as prepared as rookies from other regions. So it might be an overrated narrative, but I think there's some truth to how any rookies just aren't as prepared to on the world stage.
Okay, so tomorrow it's gonna be, you know, G2, Afrika, Flash Wolves, and then Fongfu Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Now, that's what I want to touch on because a lot of people don't really know about this Fongbu team. And I figure what we'll do on the end of each episode is we'll touch on a team that's going to play the next day. So, Fongbu, what's their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are we looking at when we look at this team? Because when we've seen them, it seems like no one really knows what they're about.
Hmm. Okay, so I think teams have started figuring out what they wanted to do, because I think they had a lot of scrims when they first came to Korea. And well, there were a lot of rumors about them really stomping scrims, but I get the feeling that these are just things that teams wanted to suss them out on. They just saying, okay, let's see what this team uh, has got. And I think, not sure, I'm not sure whether how much of their scrims have been told to other teams. I don't know about leaking and stuff, but I think that in their games it did not look impressive. That is true, and I think that comes down to the fact that on the world stage the games are pretty. They can be pretty slow paced, and they've been playing relatively slow paced compared to in the VCS, where which is pretty much kills everywhere, kills everywhere, kills on the first minute, third minute, 3 minutes you have a bot lane dive, the 5 minutes you have a top lane dive, and then it's jungle 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s, 5v5 sometimes, and 5 minutes. It's some crazy shit in the VCS, and to go from that type of environment to a, a place where most teams are not going to do that, especially Flash Wolves who do not exactly they're not too let's just say that they're not willing to fight that much early game. But they do have a particular bot side focus, for instance. So they'll commit to skirmishes, but not all the time. Like unlike VCS teams, and I think Fengwu they they have a bit of a reliance on snowballing, and just generally like to one they thrive off skirmishes, but if they do not get them, they sit back and wait for opportunity. But this is something that they're not as good at doing as other teams, because their jungler in particular, Meliodas, he I don't want to call him brainless, but he's very close to that. He pretty much only plays carry junglers, Graves, Kindred, Nidalee, and that's about it. And if he does not get, if he isn't playing Graves, even if he's playing Graves, he just kind of does stuff like as he would in solo queue and run around looking for kills or farm. Does he in particular does not have any plan when it comes to the early game, and he just kind of runs around hoping there will be a skirmish and then he can fight indoors, because he's pretty decently skilled for a jungler. And but I think there's a lot to left to be desired in terms of his decision making. And of course, we've all heard about Zeros, who is definitely the focal point of Fengwu after he joined. Because if you remember Young Generation from last year, they didn't have him. They had someone else,
Yeah,
Ren,
right.
who is now their coach, and YT, who has since joined another team. And they definitely were not a top side focus team. They mostly rely on Now, who's their mid laner, and their bot lane would not. I would say their bot lane is rather average, in on the world stage in terms of skill. Like they're not too great. They're not Uzi level. They're also not dumpster level. But we did see some bad years from Big Coral, but I think that's just more due to the fact that there were some oversights from Fengwu. So would not say he's a bad player at all. Uh, because of the fact that they got zeros, they have switched their focus a lot more, whether consciously or unconsciously, towards top side. And during the VCS play, he played a lot of carry champions. That was what it was in the meta, and he thrived off being able to solo kill his opponent. He's a very strong laner. If you look at his games, he tends to try to go for advantage from level one, and he tries to get whatever advantage he to the point where he's actually a bit cheesy. Uh, he I would say he's definitely on a level that's comparable to most of the top laners on the world stage.
Okay,
But
so well, all right. Let me ask you this then:
mhm.
Do Fongvu make it out tomorrow?
Oh, no. There's a very small chance that they do, like 10%. I I actually didn't see them coming out on the group stage at all. Uh, coming to Rose, because this is probably the toughest group they could have gotten into. To be honest, like they could have. I wanted them to go into Group D because it's just way more suited to what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the Group A is just everything. They're up against almost every team that counters whatever they want to do. Uh, Even I thought they would have a chance against G2,
Yeah.
which they end up getting. They did get a win off
Uh-huh.
Young Causing thing, but Africa and G2, no, Africa and Flash Foods are very tough opponents for them just due to how they play. Their their play styles are pretty mismatched, and Africa in particular has no, sorry, Flash Foods in particular definitely have their number. So it becomes a case of really, I find it really surprising if they even win a game tomorrow, as, apart from against G2. That's just the situation. They are not quite at the stage where they're able to exit the group stage without any issues like C9 did. They're not even on that level yet.
Okay.
But
All right.
I think they're getting there though. They're getting there slowly. The region as a whole is leveling up. They just need a bit more time, I feel.
Okay. Well, luckily there's no NA team to disappoint. There's no NA versus EU tomorrow too, so maybe all the Western fans can go ahead and cheer for G2 as they go into this group. But
Mhm.
okay, that was a dope rundown of Fongbu Buffalo, and we'll see how tomorrow pans out, and we'll have another show tomorrow as well too. Peace.
Mm. Peace.